Okay, I wanted to make this quick video about the upcoming election next week and address a few personal points. I've got a few Facebook friends in America, so hopefully one or two might get around to viewing this. I've had some quite lively discussions, both at work and on social media, and I've tried to keep it respectful most of the time. But my views on Donald Trump and what he stands for are quite strong, and I think that'll probably come across in this video. And firstly, I want to address the claim that there's some kind of equivalency between Trump and Clinton. Now, personally, I find this claim ludicrous. And I'm not saying that because I'm pro-Hillary in any sense. I'm just very anti-Trump, as I think any reasonable person should be. Hillary is a typical politician, which is not a particularly good thing. But Trump is something far worse. Now, despite claims to the contrary, he is in fact part of the establishment, at least in the relevant sense. The current political order is run by elites for elites, pretty much. And some people seem to have it in their heads that Trump will be different in this respect. And presumably they think this on the basis of things he's saying now, where he talks about how he will help families who are struggling financially. Yeah, but if you look at Trump's track record, there's absolutely nothing to suggest that he has any empathy or affinity at all towards the average working person. There's been literally hundreds of former employees and contract workers who've accused Trump of refusing to pay them for their work. And these are just ordinary people, such as dishwashers, plumbers, waiters, bartenders. Yeah, they're not wealthy people. He's been involved in 3,500 lawsuits, at least 60 of which involve non-payment of work. And since 2005 he's committed 24 violations of the Fair Labour Standards Act for failing to pay overtime and minimum wage. So given these facts, why would Trump now just suddenly become the saviour of a working class? You know, it doesn't add up. You know, the fact is, Trump will always look after people like Trump. He will consistently put corporate interests ahead of anyone or anything else. So in that sense, yeah, he is definitely part of the establishment. Now, another claim I want to look at is the notion that voting for Hillary will plunge us straight into a nuclear war with Russia. This is a lunatic statement. Hillary isn't going to have a nuclear war with Russia because of computer hacking. The basic idea being floated here is that Trump is safer with the nuclear codes than Hillary. Now, anyone who believes this, who actually believes this, is frankly very deluded. Trump has the emotional stability of basically a 10-year-old. In fact, that might be a bit generous because there are some quite mature 10-year-olds out there. The idea of Trump having access to nuclear weapons should send the shivers down everyone's spine. I cannot personally envisage a 4-year presidential term with Trump and this not leading to America going to war with some country or other. Perhaps not Russia, but there are plenty of other countries. And every time Trump brings up the subject of nuclear weapons, he shows a shockingly cavalier attitude towards using them. Now this might be saber-rattling, we don't know. But would you like to take a chance? I know I certainly wouldn't. What we do know is this man is full of hatred towards pretty much anyone who isn't a Caucasian male, preferably American one. And it seems anyone who doesn't fit into this narrow category is probably going to have quite a hard time under a Trump presidency. This man is unquestionably a far right-wing xenophobic nationalist with the emotional stability of a small child. And that's not a good combination. And then there's Trump's attitude towards women. Trump isn't a misogynist. I mean, he's been caught on tape condoning sexual predatory behaviour. Now, given that this is so, it is profoundly mysterious how he enjoys any support at all from either end of the political spectrum. Apart from perhaps a lunatic fringe group somewhere, no one should be supporting this guy. Whichever part of the political spectrum you're on, you should find his attitude towards women absolutely abhorrent. If it doesn't sicken you, then something's wrong. And if his overt racism doesn't sicken you, then there's also something wrong. I do not support the current American political system, but the idea should be to replace it with something better. The people in pre-Nazi Germany wanted to replace the Weimar Republic, and possibly they had some genuine grievances, I don't know. But it seemed not to give enough focus on the issue of whether or not what they wanted to replace the Republic with was indeed any better. And there are a few parallels that can be drawn here. Populist politics, empty political rhetoric, devoid of any sense of coherence or rationality, scapegoating. I've given a lot of thought as to why a person would want to support someone such as Donald Trump. Now, an obvious reason is such a person might be racist themselves, and anyone who has the slightest xenophobic tendencies would naturally gravitate towards someone such as Trump. And let's face it, America has a very bad track record in this regard. It always has and continues to be a very racist society. Now, this doesn't mean that everyone's racist, but a good number of people are. Now, up until about 50 or so years ago, there was still legal segregation in many states of America, particularly the Deep South. You can change your laws, but unfortunately you cannot change people's underlying attitudes. I don't think that everyone who supports Trump is this way inclined. Another possible factor is probably anti-establishment sentiments, which is understandable. I share them. The existing political order does need to be replaced, but like I said before, it's pointless replacing something if what you're replacing it with is worse. Now, one thing which does seem to be happening is that Trump is managing to tap into the disenfranchised working class. People disillusioned with many negative effects of globalisation and the subsequent impacts on job security and so forth. I do feel, however, that disproportionate blame is sometimes focused on this, with the exclusion of any real consideration of how jobs are being lost due to technology replacing the human labour force. It is, after all, far easier to blame foreigners for losing your job than it is to blame a citizenship. And this is an important point, because if current estimates are anything to go by, nearly 30% of existing jobs will be wiped out because of intelligent systems and robotics within the next decade or so. So is Trump simply an opportunist, or is all this hatred and prejudice something he really feels? Well, it's impossible to get inside his head to know for sure, but there are certain indicators which suggest it's the latter and not the former. For instance, his attack on Gold Star families, namely the parents of Captain Humayun Khan, strongly suggests he's not the Machiavellian that some people believe him to be. If you live in America, you know full well that you don't speak out against the Gold Star family. It's a major cardinal sin. And the fact that Trump knew this but went ahead anyway suggests to me that Trump really feels hatred towards these people because they're Muslim, and basically he just couldn't help himself. So yeah, I think his hatred is very real, and that makes him a particularly dangerous individual, certainly if he gets any real power. I understand that probably many of Donald Trump's more wacky and zany ideas will never see the light of day. He'll just get vetoed one after another by Congress, effectively making him a lame duck president. But what things might get through? What happens if there's another major terrorist attack on American soil, and we get the inevitably disproportionate response by Trump? Now, one thing to bear in mind when weighing up the response to a terrorist attack and the scale of that response is that we in the West have slaughtered far more Muslims than the other way around. Now, that doesn't condone terrorism in any way, but it is important to get a perspective on this. Also, the average American is far more likely to die as a result of gun-related crime than by a terrorist incident. In fact, more Americans have died on certain years due to toddlers accidentally releasing firearms than they've died through terrorism. Now, I live in the UK, and I'm sometimes queried by Facebook friends who live in America why I'm so preoccupied with American politics and the outcome of presidential elections. Well, the outcome of next week's election is something that could impact in some way or other pretty much everyone on the planet. And certainly the outcome of previous elections have impacted people in the UK. The election of George W. Bush, for instance, that certainly ended up impacting people I personally knew. I sincerely hope that America makes the right decision next week. The consequence of not doing so could be very grave. And that might sound a bit melodramatic, but I think that's the truth of the matter. But since the announcement a few days ago that the FBI have reopened the Clinton email investigation, The polls have narrowed again, making a Trump presidency a very real possibility. Now, for anyone who is considering voting for Trump, I hope you consider some of the things I've said here. If you're wondering why the prospect of a far right-wing xenophobic nationalist with clear anger management issues getting to power is such a big deal, then I suggest you consult a few history books.